would have lost his car. Guess what? That's what you insured.
Exactly. Exactly. 'Cause you can't put no price on life. Exactly. Gun safety. So you don't shoot your own dumb self, right? I'm a gun
Way to
owner.
go for you, Brad.
I am a gun
You're a
owner.
brave man. You're braver than
Um,
me.
yeah, I'm a gun owner, but I keep my gun in my box. It's locked. Flips out. Flip is not loaded. So, but that gives me the time. If I go to my gun box, open up the gun box, load the clip, load the gun. Exactly. That's giving me some time. The only thing, though, see, listen, I'm a Marine. I fought for this country. I will if I choose to. That's my right. It's mandatory if you're Israeli citizen that you do 2 years. There's no gun.
You know what? Job amazingly, and they have little billy clubs.
Five off.
Okay, that's fair.
right. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la la la, la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to all of us joining us on the live stream, which is probably, hopefully, quite a few more than are joining us in the sanctuary. But for our small and mighty number here, it is so wonderful to see you all who braved the cold and the snow and the ice to be here with us tonight. It's wonderful to be together with everyone, to have our congregational president, Hank Bernstein, here with us on the Bima as we join together to celebrate Shabbat. So that we are praying together in community tonight, let's take a moment to introduce ourselves on the chat. Please, if you're on the live stream, say your name, welcome in the chat. And if you're in person, find someone new to greet and wish them a Shabbat Shalom. We're honored to have the Weiss family, who thankfully were up for an impromptu mitzvah and honor this evening to lead us in our Shabbat blessings. We have Philip and Stephanie, or you're a fish actually, right? The Weiss fish family. And Samuel and Aviva, who became B'nai Mitzvah here, I don't know, what, 3-4 years ago now? Or can't believe it, so big. So wonderful to have you. We'll begin with our candle lighting on page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של Shabbat.
And the Friday evening Kiddush, the blessing over the wine, can be found on page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron le'maseh v'reishit כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
L'chaim.
חיים.
Take a sip if you want. Just juice. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. Seeing as we had our first kind of a real snow, I'm not counting last week with that little dusting, our first real snow this Shabbat, I did a little research about snow and Judaism leading up to tonight. Now, first, some very basic laws. If you are someone who keeps Shabbat in a more traditional way and doesn't work on Shabbat, I have some bad news. You are not allowed to make snowmen or snow people on Shabbat. It is considered work according to the sages. They discuss this, not in the Talmud, but you know. However, very interestingly, you still have an obligation to shovel your walk and to salt, even if it is Shabbat. You still have to do that work because in Judaism, pikuach nefesh, the saving of a life, takes precedence over even a personal Sabbath observance. But I think most importantly, Jewish tradition tells us when it snows to just take a moment of gratitude and appreciation, something really that Shabbat is all about. And so, in the words of Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, he says, prayer is our humble answer to the inconceivable surprise of living. And so, when we look out at that snow, we have a blessing we can say. The rabbis didn't write a specific blessing for snow, unfortunately. I think probably because there was not a lot of snow in first century Israel. However, they do have a beautiful blessing anytime we see a beautiful natural phenomenon, a part of nature that really inspires us. And I know when I looked out this morning, before it all got like gray and disgusting, I saw that beauty, that wonder of creation. And so I'll invite you to join the blessing with me this Shabbat. It starts like every blessing, like over wine or anything else, but ends with the words, Oseh Ma'aseh Bereshit, the source of creation. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Oseh Ma'aseh Bereshit. Blessed are you, our God, ruler of the universe, the source of creation. And so we continue to offer that gratitude, to sing out our praises to God on this Shabbat as we join together on page 10 in Shabbat HaMalkah. And so that we can better sing out, please rise.
החווה מראש האילנות נסתלקה, בואו ונצא לקראת שבת המלכה. הנה היא יורדת הקדושה ברוחה, ועמה מלאכים צבא שלום ומנוחה. בואי בואי המלכה, בואי בואי הכלה, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShalom. The sun on the treetops no longer is seen. Come gather to welcome the Sabbath, our Queen. Behold her descending, the holy, the blessed, and with her the angels of peace and of rest. Draw near, and here abide. Draw near, O Sabbath bride. Peace also to you, you angels of peace.
And we continue to welcome in that Sabbath Queen, that metaphorical Shabbat bride, with Lecha Dodi, pages 20 and 21.
Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, ישמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתחילה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך ומאורי. אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
We turn to page 28 for our call to worship. Baruch Hu.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Lai 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 lai.
The top of page 31, we read together, "Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim." Page 32.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadta Otanu limadta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu U'kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha V'nifrach b'divrei Toratcha U'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu Ve'orech yameinu Uvahem negei yomam v'layla Negei yomam v'layla Ve'ahavatcha al tasir Mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael Ohev amo Yisrael
Page 34.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Leolam Va'ed.
Please be seated, page 36.
Thou shalt love Adonai, thy God, with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And all these words which I command thee on this day shall be upon thy heart, shall be upon thy heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and thou shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hands, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them on the doorposts of thy house, and upon thy gates, and upon thy gates, that ye may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
We read together on the top of page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Torah tehilot oseferet, Torah tehilot oseferet. Malchutecha ra'uvanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze Elianu ve'amru, ze Elianu ve'amru, Adonai Loch le'olam va'ed, Adonai Loch le'olam va'ed. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Pray as if everything depended on God. Act as if everything depended on you. Please rise, page 46.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל, אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. Continue with our prayer for peace together on the top of page 61. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. We now take moments for silent prayer.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
If that doesn't bring peace, I don't know what will. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. In a moment, we'll be on page 253 for the Misha Beirach, our prayer for healing. Our hearts are broken this Shabbat after the tragic fire in Fairmount early Wednesday morning that killed 12 people, including 8 children, many of whom went to the Beish Martin School, a local school where many of our own Road of Shalom children go. Their school community is in so much pain right now, as is the entire neighborhood. And while we continue to mourn the dead, we also pray for healing for our entire Fairmount neighborhood. We add to those prayers for our own loved ones in need of healing. If you are holding someone in your heart tonight in need of healing, I invite you to write their names in the chat or to speak their names aloud at this time.
שברך אבותינו מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotzeinu mekor habracha lavotzeinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We move now to thoughts of gratitude and joy as we prepare to sing our Shehechianu blessing, thanking God for giving us life, for sustaining us and lifting us up and allowing us to reach this moment in time. And I hope it is a special moment for all of us, despite school closures and Omicron and snow and ice and all that good stuff. I think we should all find at least one thing to be grateful for this Shabbat. And I hope all of you joining us on live stream will write something in the chat or the comments, something that you're grateful for. Maybe there was a birthday or anniversary or other fun things going on. Anything in the sanctuary, anything exciting? Anyone want to shout out? What do you got, Ben Sion?
Our son
Your son started a new job, Mazel Tov. That's great news. That is wonderful. Tid Chadesh. Others, anything else? What do you got? Shout it out. Having the sanctuary be open. We will strive as much as we can to be here in person when it is safe. We will continue to follow the science, and I am happy you're all here with me because it's not the same praying to an empty sanctuary. That is definitely something to be grateful for. And we got one more really big one tonight, and that is we got a new Jew. And I couldn't be more happy. And so I'll invite the congregation to rise as I invite Aubrey Montgomery to come join me up at the Ark. All right. Yesterday, yeah, time goes, slow these days. Yesterday we had a wonderful Beit Din and mikvah where Aubrey immersed and officially became a member of the Jewish people. She was joined yesterday as well as today with her husband Josh and her in-laws who we have with us. Come on right up here, Les and Sandy. It's so wonderful to have you all here. And I know there's many more joining on the live stream who are here celebrating with you today, Aubrey. And I'll say we got a 2-for-1 special on this one, as you might have guessed. So it was a really good day for the Jews. Aubrey, you stand before the open ark, before the commanding presence of the Torah, the Jewish people's most cherished treasure. It has led us on a way and guided us ever since we received it at Sinai. I'll place the Torah into your arms as you take it into your heart. And mostly because of size, we are going to use this really special one, which is a scroll that was actually rescued from the Holocaust. It's our Holocaust scroll from the Czech Republic, and what a double extra special meaning there. As we know, our people lost so many, and whenever someone comes to Judaism as a Jew by choice and helps to renew that covenant and helps to continue that chain of tradition, we are uplifted, and how beautiful. You are known by the name Aubrey, which means that you're always linked in love to those who gave you life. And from this time forth, you shall also be known within the Jewish community as Naomi Shoshana bat Avraham Vasara. What a special name. That name Naomi, of course, reminiscent of the story of the book of Ruth, the first convert, but I think much more importantly of your Jewish grandmother, Naomi, of blessed memory, who I know must be looking down on you today and must be so, so proud of this decision. And of course, Shoshana, representing your middle name in English, Rose, and from Naomi, who was a Rosenberg, or Rosenstein, Rosenberg, yeah. So special. Naomi Shoshana, may this name bring respect and honor to the Jewish people. We rejoice to welcome into our midst one who willingly and devotedly helps replenish the ranks of our people. I ask God's blessing upon you now in these ancient words. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's presence shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence be with you always and grant you peace. Ken yehi ratzon, may this be God's will. Amen. Amen. And for this blessing and so many more, we join together in Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehecheyanu v'kiyemanu v'higi'anu lazman hazeh Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehecheyanu v'kiyemanu v'higi'anu lazman hazeh.
Please be seated. In our Torah portion this week, we find a hapax legomenon. Anyone know what that word means? Got some scholars. Oh, Ben Sion, of course, I know you do. It's a really good SAT word, right? Well, I'll say it because I'm on the mic so everyone can hear me. In case you aren't familiar, like Ben Sion, with what a hapax legomenon is, it is a word or phrase that only appears once in a set canon. And for our purposes, we're talking about the Torah. So it's a word or phrase that only appears once in the entire Torah. Now, what makes this so interesting to us as interpreters of Torah is that without the context of other occurrences of this word, it's hard to know exactly what a hapax legomenon, what this particular phrase means. So, this week we find the very interesting term Erev Rav, often translated as mixed multitudes. When describing the beginning of the famous Exodus from Egypt, our portion recounts the Israelites journeyed from Ramses to Sukkot, about 600,000 men on foot, aside from children. Moreover, an Erev Rav, a mixed multitude, went up with them. And they baked unleavened cakes of dough that they had taken out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, since they had been driven out of Egypt and could not delay, nor had they prepared any provisions for themselves. Now, undoubtedly, most of us are familiar with the latter half of that reading. The famous story of matzah, the cakes, unleavened, baked in haste, all that good stuff. What you might not have ever heard of was this Erev Rav, this mixed multitude that left Egypt with the Israelites. So who were these Erev Rav? Well, first, a little word about the translation, because these might be words you've heard before. Erev, besides meaning evening, which is probably the use many of us know, also means mixed in Hebrew. If you ever go to Jerusalem, there's a really good shawarma place right outside the Shuk. I think it's called Sima or Sammy. And they make a mi'urav. You hear that? Mi'urav, Erev, mi'urav Yerushalmi. It's called the Jerusalem mix. It's for the brave. As the cantor said, it's lots of innards and stuff, all mixed. Delicious. They put a lot of spices in it. And Rav, which you might know that, also means rabbi, but in addition also means great or large. I'll leave you to make the connections however you want yourself. Thus, the translation that we often find in the Torah for this Erev Rav is the mixed multitudes. Now, many commentators have tried to answer the question of who were these people? Rashi, the great medieval commentator, tells us that the Erev Rav were a mixture of converts from all different nationalities who came with the Israelites. Other commentators say that the Erev Rav specifically refers to Egyptians who left with the Israelites. The first century philosopher and historian Philo of Alexandria believed the Erev Rav were two groups. The first group were Egyptian slaves and prisoners of war who saw this as an opportunity to escape to freedom. And the second group consisted of Egyptians who had converted, who had become convinced of God's power prior to that 10th plague. How amazing is this? That at the moment of liberation, it was not just the Israelites celebrating the birth of a new community, of a whole new world. It was the Israelites as well as Egyptians and those from other nations. It was people who chose the tradition officially through conversion, and many who were perhaps what we'd call today Jewish adjacent, who were merely moved to join the Israelites as fellow travelers. For the Israelites to welcome their former enemy into their world, and equally for the Egyptians and others to take a leap of faith, is just but another miracle in a story of miracles. Together, they begin to create a new society in the wilderness. However, this amazing new society soon has some hiccups on the way. A few portions after the Exodus, the Israelites, along with the Erev Rav, reach Mount Sinai. While Moses is receiving the commandments, you all know the story, the people below build the infamous golden calf. Now, the Torah never tells us exactly who of this big group built the golden calf. However, rabbinic tradition places the blame solely on the Erev Rav. The rabbis go even further and conflate the Erev Rav with another great hapax legomenon, the Asaf Suf, which is often translated to mean riffraff. It's a great translation because it plays with the alliteration, the Asaf Suf, or the riffraff, who complain to Moses later about a lack of water and food and dream of returning to Egypt. By placing all of the Israelites' mistakes on the Erev Rav, this mixed multitude, on the strangers that dwell in their midst, the rabbis are really taking the easy way out. They shun all culpability, and they strip the Israelites of their own responsibility to do the work of teshuvah, of repentance. I think, how often have we seen a minority group, often labeled as outsiders or strangers or immigrants, blamed for all the ills of our society? Yesterday marked 1 year since the deadly attacks on the Capitol by our own fellow Americans. It would be so easy to say that those rioters, those insurrectionists who sought to destroy democracy in our country were some other, outside entity that has nothing to do with us. Like our ancient rabbis, it is a natural tendency to distance ourselves from them and ultimately remove the onus and the burden of protecting democracy from us. But here's the thing. Numerous polls find that over 32% of people in our country still believe that there was widespread voter fraud in the 2020 elections, despite all evidence to say that this is completely false. This 32% of our country are not some foreign Erev Rav, strangers in our midst. These are our fellow Americans who, whether we like it or not, are the same people that we share our lives with, our neighbors, our classmates, our coworkers, our family, our friends. If we believe in the future of democracy, it is not enough to simply place the blame on this huge segment of the country and to wash our hands of it. We have an obligation, like our ancient Israelite ancestors, to be a part of the solution. So what can we do? I have a couple suggestions. The first, keep talking to people you know. Become educated about our election laws and speak in facts. People are capable of changing their minds, but it's hard, and it takes work, it takes relationship, it takes listening to each other, and it takes understanding one another. And second, advocate for voting rights and fair districts. We are working with Reformed congregations across the state on a campaign currently to ensure that the new district maps mandated by the 2020 census are fair and equitable. Gerrymandered districts disenfranchise voters and naturally favor more extremist candidates on both the left and the right. Please reach out to myself or Ellen Kraftsau-Kogan, our lay leader, if you are interested in getting more involved in these voter protection efforts. Now, several verses after we are taught about the Erev Rav in our portion, we come across a verse that highlights just how intertwined and interconnected our paths truly are. God commands the people, "There shall be one Torah for the native citizen and for the stranger who dwells among you." At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter who the Erev Rav were and whether they were ringleaders of all the various rebellions in the wilderness or not. Because as soon as the Israelites agreed to share their journey with them, they became united. We became one people, Israelite and Erev Rav together, inseparable with a shared destiny. We are one United States of America. Democrat, Republican, far left, far right, moderates, and everything in between. For better or for worse, we have an obligation to bring everyone along with us, to find a way to work together, to continue on this ongoing journey to freedom and to a more perfect democracy together. Shabbat Shalom. We turn back in our prayer books now to page 282, followed by 287 for Aleinu. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Israeli author and poet Yoram Taharlev passed away yesterday at the age of 94. As we prepare to take moments of memorial, I share words from one of his poems. To the place where I am going, many have gone before me. They left a path, they left trees, they left stones for my feet. But what shall I leave after me? Will I leave anything at all? I cannot see my footprints. I cannot see my footprints. And who will see them tomorrow? This week, our congregation observes Yahrzeit for Shirley Bankowski, Adolf Berg, Ethel Bernstein, Annette Wallowitz-Black, Edward Blank, Philip Blank, Louis M. Blesnak, Nancy Blesnak, Mayor Block, Charles X. Block, Fanny Bloom, Jerry Brosco, Maurice Brown, Lillian Budin, Herman Bueller, Estelle Bykowski, Jorgelina Candia, Eliezer Ben Chaim, Levita H. Coleman, David Cornell, Leonard L. Kreskoff, Kyung-Ja Lee Desjardins, Jack Danus, Sidney Almayer Farbish, Abraham Fellheimer, Bernard Fink, Mort Fish, Robert Fisher, Naomi Fishman, Reuben A. Frank, Esther Friedenberg, Sarah R. Furman, Frank H. Gelman, David Genn, Tilly Lockglass, Louis Joseph Goffman, Julius Milton Gold, Ruth Grunberg Goldenberg, Elizabeth F. Goldsmith, Selena Goldsmith, Ruth Gorchov, Carrie R. Hoffman, Hannah Hoffman, Dana Israel, Judith Kirschbaum Jacobs, Louis Kahn, Eva Kameneka, Bertram M. Carfunkel, Esther Stein Kemper, Evelyn Korn, Solomon Lang Statler, Louisa Goldman Lazarus, Morris Lempert, Sidney A. Levinton, Sarah Levine, Jenny Levy, Donald K. Lieberman, Lillian K. Lovenstein, Sally Levi Mandel, Linda Weil Mansbach, Robert Marlowe, Abraham Marimore, Sig C. Mayer, Rosemary McJury, Abraham Meltz, Esther Miller, Sally Roth Merman, Moishe Nemirovsky, Rachel Nussbaum, Jack N. Pollock Jr., Sylvia Schachtel Refowich, Rosalind Richter, David Rickey, Joan A. Rosenblum, J. B. Rosenheim, Edgar Rosenthal, Rose N. Rosenthal, Edward Rosewater, Edward J. Ross, Leonard Rubin, Bessie A. Rubin, Max Shader, Cecilia Schwartz, Charlotte Glass Schweig, Samuel Cernoff, Harold Silver, Esther Silverman, Mary Simpson, Edith Frieda Singer, Adele N. Sinsheimer, Leon Richard Smith, Rhoda Spells, Wolf Stepbacker, Joyce Herzog Strauss, Joseph Strauss Jr., Sarah M. Vogelson, Shirley Fox Weinstein, H. Norman Weiss, Sophie Salzer Weiss, Rosalind Wilner, Abraham S. Wilson, Teresa Weiss, Caroline Wolf, Walter L. Wolf, Bernard Woolman. And we add the names of those who have been taken from our midst, but not from our hearts in these most recent days, for whom we are observing Shloshim, the 30 days of mourning. Lee Bernstein, Samuel Z. Klausner, Betty Lou Lentz, Lois Lipson. If you are observing Yartzeit or Shiloshim for a loved one whose name was not mentioned, I invite you to write their names in the chat or to speak their names aloud at this time. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. We turn to page 294 and rise for the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman karib v'yimru, amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'alam olamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei d'kudusha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace and comfort to us all, and let us say, amen.
Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru, amen.
We wish you all Shabbat Shalom. If you are new to the congregation, please introduce yourself to the wonderful Stephen Scher, our membership manager, who's waving in the back, and he'd love to tell you more about how you can get involved. And I will leave it to Cantor Hyman to tell us a little about our closing song.
For the closing song, I'm going to ask you to be seated, and the words are in your handout, so you'll be able to find it very easily. Debbie Friedman was born on February 23, 1951, and she was the product of the North American Federation of Temple Youth's summer camps, having trained as a song leader at Olin Sang Ruby Union Institute in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, and Kutz Camp in Warwick, New York. Debbie is recognized as one of the more influential contemporary musicians to emerge from the social and political renaissance of the 1960s. Her musical projects and touring around the country gave her music a place to be heard, as all of her contemporaries had grown up to become the congregational leaders, and they would remember how her music had made them feel over all of those summers. Debbie was a fantastic mentor to so many people. She was also one of my dear friends. Much of the music tonight was taken from her catalog, and a lot of the stuff you probably were able to acknowledge as songs that already hold a regular place in our repertoire. This weekend marks the 11th year of her passing, and we're closing tonight's services with her song, You Are the One, which is based on Reb Nachman's prayer. And it was... The words that I'm about to say are her words, and they were recorded in 1990 at the Hotel Del Coronado in California, where they were having a concert that was being taped and heavily produced. It was one of the bigger things that she had ever produced, and interestingly enough, the night before that they had the production, they also had a snowstorm, so she mentioned it in her words here, where she said, Reb Nachman said that even when we are feeling isolated and alone, and when we are in pain, or feeling ecstatic because we're happy, we have the option to look at nature and at life, and at the creations around us, even the snow, and recognize God as partner. You are the one For this I pray, that I may have the strength to be alone, to see the world, to stand among the trees and all the living things, that I may stand alone and offer prayers and talk to you. You are the one who whom I do belong. And I'll sing my soul to you. And give you all that is in my heart. May all the foliage of the fields, all grasses, trees, and plants awaken at my comingness, I pray, and send their life into my words of prayer, so that my speech, my thoughts, and my prayers will be made whole, and through the spirit of all growing things. And we know that everything is one, because we know that everything is you. You are the one, for this I pray. I ask you, God, to hear my words that pour out from my heart. I stand before you, I like water, lift my hands to you in prayer, and grant me strength, to stand alone. You are the one to whom I do belong. And I'll sing my soul to you. And give you all that is in my heart. You are the one, for this I pray, and I'll sing my soul to you.
Amen.
Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless us and keep us.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May the light of God's presence shine upon us and be gracious to us.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God's presence be with us always and grant us peace. Can you hear Ratzon? May this be God's will. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.